Hi, my name is Laurie, and I struggle with bipolar disorder type 2 and borderline personality disorder. So, I am coming out of a major depressive episode. And because of that, this is the perfect time to talk about depression and omega-3 fish oil. But if you watch this, please watch the whole thing because I want you to see the good and the bad. But fish oil has actually been very beneficial for me. The next thing is, please understand that I am not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, a healthcare professional, I'm the patient. These are my stories based off my experiences. I struggled with depression for years, and before I was diagnosed properly, the doctors would give me SSRIs or antidepressants like Prozac or Zoloft or Paxil. Well, when I would take them, I would become really hyped up, really revved up. I'd get agitated and angry, and my thoughts were racing. What was happening is I was becoming hypomanic, which is something that is common with people that have bipolar disorder. So I knew something was wrong, and I would stop taking it. Well, then I would be curled up in the fetal position, crying and wishing that I had never been born. And so several years ago, I was watching public television and I saw Dr. Daniel Amen, and he was talking about his book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And what Dr. Amen said is, there have been studies done that have proven that omega-3 fish oil can be just as effective for bipolar depression as Prozac, only you don't get all of the side effects. So I ordered his book, I read that, that was also in his book. And then I went to his website and I ordered his supplements because I thought, this guy is specializing in the brain and in mental health. And so it's going to be the right fish oil, it's going to be the right milligrams. And so this is what I'm going to do. So I got his fish oil and I started taking it. And it wasn't like I took it and the next day, some big miracle and angels singing and, I'm all better. It didn't work like that. What happened was a couple of weeks later, I happened to notice that I hadn't cried that day. And then I thought, wait a minute, I didn't cry yesterday either. Well, that was a big deal. I mean, that's a huge deal for me. And so I was like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing different? Well, it was the fish oil. So I took it for a while and it took a lot of the weight of that depression off of me. Now, I still have bipolar disorder. I still struggle with depression. But as long as I'm taking the right omega-3 fish oil, I never get as depressed and it never lasts as long. But what happened was all of a sudden my stomach started getting real upset and I couldn't take it. And I didn't realize at that time that it was because I needed to have my gallbladder out. And so I stopped taking it and I noticed, 2 or 3 weeks later, whatever, that I was crying every day. And I remember sitting in my bed crying hysterically and saying out loud, like, what are you doing wrong? What are you doing wrong? You were feeling better. What have you done? Like, what is it that you've done differently? And then I remembered it was the fish oil. I had stopped taking the fish oil and now I was depressed again. And so I tried to take Dr. Amen's again, upset stomach. I started trying all different brands. I tried to match up the milligrams as much as possible. Still had the upset stomach, and I was doing everything you can think of. Finally, I found a brand that carried liquid fish oil, and it was very similar to the milligrams that Dr. Amen had. And so I started using that and putting it in a protein shake. Well, that worked for a while, because I had the right amount and I was using it, but eventually I got tired of doing protein shakes every day. And it was flavored. I mean, you could just take it, but then I ended up getting a batch that was rancid, and it kind of scared me a little bit. And I was like, so I tried Dr. Amen's again. Well, I had my gallbladder out, and all of a sudden I was able to take his again and didn't have any problems. So I did that for a long time and I was doing pretty well. But about 2 or 3 months before my mom died, I stopped taking the Brain MD brand and I went and got a really, really popular brand that you can buy at Walmart, Kroger, or any pharmacy. And I started taking that. Well, I didn't even realize that I was going into a depression until after my mom died. Now, my mom died a couple of months ago now, I think it is. And I lived with her. And because I have mental health problems, I helped take care of her, but she paid the bills. So I really am in a situation where I would be depressed. I'm grieving the loss of my mom. I'm scared because I don't have a job and I don't know if I can hold a job, and I can't afford to stay where I am, and I have no idea where to go and no idea what to do. So even a person with a healthy brain would be depressed and frantic and scared right now, but mine went further than that. It went into a full-blown major depression where I couldn't function. And the problem with that is I am in the fight for my life. I need to be able to function because I've got to make some very hard and very serious decisions, but I couldn't function. I didn't feel love, and I was pushing people away. I was so depressed and couldn't control my emotions that I would start crying or I would get angry, and I was scared to be around people because I didn't want to upset someone else. So I pushed people away. And I cried and cried all of the time, and I had so much heaviness. I mean, it was just like this dark fog, and my memory was bad, and my thinking was slow, and it was like I couldn't get my thoughts through, or I couldn't penetrate that big, dark, heavy, gloomy, gray cloud that was over my brain. I was so depressed, and I was crying hysterically all of the time. I was absolutely miserable, and I would think about dying. And that was the worst thing, because it went from passively thinking, well, I wish that I were dead, or I wish that I had never been born. And it got to a scary place where I actually started planning how I might die. Now, I haven't had that happen in years, and it really scared me. And I started thinking, and I remembered that I was getting depressed before my mom died. I remember one day being in the living room crying, and my mom coming in saying, "What's wrong?" And I just remember that I had no hope. And I was like, "Mom, I'm too old, and I've struggled with this mental illness for too long, and I don't know what to do to help myself." And I said, "When you die, I don't know if I can take care of myself. How am I going to get a job? How am I going to manage? How am I going to pay for rent? Like, what am I going to do?" And so I looked back and I realized, well, I was depressed before my mom even died. And then I went into this major depressive episode after she died. And so I finally realized, like, Laurie, you switched brands. And I looked at the milligrams, and they weren't even close to what Dr. Amen's milligrams were. So a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a little longer, I thought, oh my gosh, like, you have to get Dr. Amen's. It doesn't matter how much it costs. You have to pay for it, and you have to get it. And so I did. Well, I remember, like, on the 9th day thinking, why don't I feel any better? Like, I still am really depressed. Everything's really heavy, But after about 2 weeks, I had a good day. And then the next day, I had a bad day. But then the next day, I had a good day. And the next day, I had a good day. Now, I am still depressed. I'm still grieving the loss of my mom. And I am still frantically trying to figure out, what can I do? But I have had such a heavy weight, such a heavy load taken off of me because I started taking that omega-3 fish oil. I am no longer thinking about dying. I am no longer even passively thinking about it. My brain is hopeful that I'm going to get through this. My brain is hopeful that God is going to answer my prayers and lead me in the right direction, or that God is going to bring me opportunities. All of a sudden, I can think clearer, and I can think about solutions to my problems. And I still don't know what I'm going to do, and I still don't know what's going to happen to me, but at least my brain is working better, and the depression has lifted, and now I have a chance to actually get some things done. And so that's my story. I will not switch brands ever again. For me, it's like heart medicine. You have to take it every single day. And I will not make that mistake again, because if you watched one of my other videos where I talked about I was depressed and suicidal, you will know that me switching brands me being on the wrong milligrams, me not taking the correct dose, almost cost me my life. It's not worth it. I'm not telling you, I'm not sponsored by this company. I'm not telling you that you need to take this brand. I'm telling you my experience. And this is my experience, and it saved my life. And I'm hoping that this video will help someone else. Thank you for watching. Bye.